Today's date is Tuesday, May 26, 2020. The time is 6 p.m. First, we'll have the approval of the agenda. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved and properly seconded. All those,
Discussion.
I'm sorry.
Um, I would like to be able to take 12A from the agenda, and the reason is because Jaudy Park continues to get money allocated from the county, and the fitness center is already going to cost us in 7 years approximately $400,000 in additional to the budget.
So what you're saying is you don't want the monies to.
I'm saying I don't want 12A even to be discussed.
Okay.
If I can get a second.
I'll second that.
Still got to make the motion, if I'm not mistaken, correct?
I just did.
Okay.
Mr. Travis.
Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman, I believe that if I understood Mr. Bell correctly, he was making a motion to have the agenda amended to remove item 12A, and I believe Mr. Trapp, who's
Trapp is
participating by
second.
phone, just seconded.
That's correct. Any discussion on amending the agenda?
Yes, sir. Part of the discussion is, I guess I can't understand how we make recommendations to have more money given to Jaudy Park in the middle of this is almost June. The budget going to be approved by the end of June, July 1, and we are. Let me take this mask off a second. And what we're doing is want to add more money to the budget when we just allocated money to the budget and no other areas is getting money.
So what I'm understanding is money's already been allocated, correct?
No, it is not.
Well, the extra money, Mr. Taylor, if you could explain, would it be going toward the parking lot, if I'm not correct?
Yes, sir. We're going for the parking lot. Situation is we had a number of projects that we were working with an engineer and we had estimates on how much they would cost. We are finding now that we're bidding them out and we no longer work with this particular engineer, that the numbers have come in different than what he had
That's correct.
told us to use for budget numbers. And this is one of those projects. We had anticipated a certain amount to be the cost. It has come in over that amount. And what we would be doing is with this particular request of action would be to cover the overage that was above and beyond what we thought the budget number was going to come in at and what we had anticipated.
If we not allocate this money toward that project, it would be similar to what was done out in Jenkinsville, correct?
If you talking
We cut corners.
we would cut corners, exactly. What would happen here, either we wouldn't do the project or we would have to cut chunks of it out. And we've looked at that as an option. You would probably pull your curb and gutter and things such as that out. And the problem when you do that, like we found in Jenkinsville, is then your project doesn't drain properly or it starts falling apart very quickly. So that's the problem.
Okay, so if that is the case, okay, I took some pictures today at another park. Okay, and when I look at the drainage, is poor. Okay, and I have these pictures up here. We even have places where you can see the fences. The signs are rotting down.
What park?
There's been no proposal for these other areas. So why have there not been a proposal for these areas when we get a proposal for Jaudy Park?
What park are you referencing, Mr.?
I have the pictures right here. Rufus Belton Park.
Okay.
If you want to look at the pictures.
I'll look at it. Any further discussion from council before we take a vote?
Mr. Chair, my
Douglas?
understanding, this project is already in progress. This is something that we're just extending the finances to get it completed. The project that was in Jenkinsville, when it was slighted, when we cut corners we ended up having to go back and pay more money. If we do that, we're gonna end up doing the same thing again. Since it's already allocated for and already in progress.
No, ma'am. The project has not been, that's why they're asking for the money. They're asking for $39,949 in addition to that cost. It's not been committed to.
Any further discussion from council before we take a vote to amend the agenda? I think Mr. Douglas, you just joined, correct?
Right.
Just to catch you up, Mr. Bell made a motion to amend the agenda to take item 12A off. And we're in discussions now just to catch you up to speed. Any discussion from you, Mr. Douglas?
No, I'm good.
Okay. All those in favor of removing item A off the agenda signify by saying aye.
Huh?
I think that's Mr. Trapp and Mr. Bell. All those not in favor signify by saying nay.
Nay.
Negative. Nay.
Nays have it. Now down to the vote to approve the agenda signify by saying aye.
Aye.
The ayes have it. Now down to invocation.
Opposers, nay.
There's one nay? Oh, I thought I heard you say aye. I apologize.
No.
All those opposed?
Nay.
Mr. Bell, nay. Now down to the invocation, Councilmember Trapp, if you would, please.
Let us pray. God, thank you for allowing us to gather once again to conduct the county business. Please let every vote taken today be for the betterment of Fairfield County and its citizens. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. Thank you, Mr. Trapp. Now down to the approval of the minutes, budget work session dated April 27th, 2020, and regular meeting dated May the 11th, 2020. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
So moved.
Seconded.
It's been moved and properly seconded. Any discussion? If no discussion, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The ayes have it. There are no public presentations. Now down to public hearings. We have item A. Ms. Davis, if you would, please.
An ordinance to establish operating and capital budgets for the operation of the county government of Fairfield County for the fiscal year commencing July 1, 2020, to provide for the levy of taxes for Fairfield County for the fiscal year commencing July 1, 2020, to provide for the expenditure of tax revenues and other county funds, to provide for other county purposes, to provide for certain fiscal and other matters relating to county government and other matters related thereto.
All right, we'll go ahead and open this public hearing up at 6:08. Ms. Davis, anyone signed to speak?
Yes, we have one. Mr. Randy Bright has sent in a statement.
Thank you.
The topic, budget ordinance. Good job on holding the base millage rate steady. Good job on rejecting extravagant requests such as $400,000 for a non-essential building. Good job on prudent investments such as water, sewer infrastructure. Yes, there is too little budgeted for road maintenance and too much for council expenses.
Thank you, Ms. Davis. No one else signed to speak. We'll go ahead and close this public hearing up at 6:09. Now down to item B. Ms. Davis, if you would.
An ordinance adopting the 2018 edition of the International Building, Residential, Plumbing, Mechanical, Fuel, Gas, and Fire Codes as the mandatory building codes for Fairfield County, South Carolina.
All right. We'll go ahead and open this public hearing up at 6:10. Ms. Davis, anyone signed to speak?
No one signed to speak.
We'll close this public hearing at 6:10 also. Now down to item C, Ms. Davis.
An ordinance adopting the 2017 edition of the National Electric Code as the mandatory electric code for Fairfield County, South Carolina.
Go ahead and open this public hearing up at 6:11. Ms. Davis, anyone signed to speak?
No one signed to speak.
All right. We'll close this public hearing at 6:11 also. Now down to item D. Ms. Davis, if you would.
An ordinance authorizing Fairfield County to purchase certain real property in Fairfield County, South Carolina, authorizing the execution and delivery of a purchase agreement, an option agreement, and a right of first refusal agreement, authorizing the expenditure of certain grant funds and other related matters.
We'll open this public hearing up at 6:11. Ms. Davis, anyone signed to speak?
No one signed to speak.
We'll close this public hearing at 6:11. Now down to item E. Ms. Davis, if you would.
Fairfield County Sheriff's Office application for the Coronavirus Emergency Supplemental Funding Program fiscal year 2020 formula grant solicitation. Grant funds would be used for the purchase of nuclear, biological, and chemical protection kits, license plate readers, personal protective equipment, gloves, coveralls, shoe covers, chemical tape, cloth tape, and overboots, an ID printer, and ID covers.
All right. We'll go ahead and open this public hearing up at 6:12. I saw the sheriff here. I was going to see if he had anything to say on it.
There he is. He's coming.
He's coming? Okay.
While we're waiting, I will say there's no county match on this particular grant, which is a great thing.
Okay. Sheriff, I was just curious if you had anything to speak on in reference to this coronavirus emergency application. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
I don't have anything to add unless y'all need to ask questions.
Okay. No, sir. I was just curious if you had anything. Okay. Ms. Davis, anyone else signed to speak?
No one signed to speak.
Okay. If not, we'll close this public hearing up at 6:12. Now down to item A, ordinances, resolutions, and orders. We have item A, second reading ordinance number 712, an ordinance authorizing the execution and delivery of a lease agreement between Fairfield County and South Carolina ENT, Allergy and Sleep Medicine, PA, and other related matters. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved and properly seconded. Any discussion?
Explanation for the public.
Okay. I think Mr. Davenport is going.
No, not on this one.
Okay.
This is the lease between us and
Okay.
the county and ENT.
This has been a while, correct?
It has been a while in getting this one resolved. Again, this is part of the properties when we bought the properties that we pulled out of the hospital. We didn't buy, again, the old hospital itself, but we bought the properties around it. With this particular one, ENT had been located below Dr. Gaddy's office and using it. We do have, I think, a 3-year lease for $540 a month, which was finally agreed to. Mr. Morgan, if you would like to add any more to that?
Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman, members of council, that is correct. There was some difficulties in going back and forth with SENT, but we were able to get this particular proposed lease in place. The lease terms would be similar to the other tenants that are currently leasing medical facilities that the county owns, Dr. Gaddy's practice and the Martin building, as well as the rehab facility. So in order to make sure that there is equal treatment amongst everybody, the lease terms, even though they are different, are based upon the same square footage amount for all of the tenants there.
And with this particular one, we're at 2,000 square foot is what they're leasing from the county.
Okay. Any further discussion, comments from council? If no further discussion, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Ayes have it. Now down to item B, third and final reading, orders number 742, an ordinance adopting the 2018 edition of the International Building, Residential Plumbing, Mechanical, Fuel, Gas, and Fire Codes as a mandatory building codes of Fairfield County, South Carolina. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved and properly second. Any discussion from council? No discussion from council. I guess, Mr. Taylor, we just have a very brief explanation for viewers, if we have any.
This one I will defer to Chris Clausen, our Community Development Director, to let him give you the details on it. Again, we are just updating the codes that we ask people to comply with when they're building.
Right. So thank you, sir. Members of council, Mr. Chairman. So this is it should have been adopted in January. The state had a delayed adoption, and so we're just we're waiting. We were waiting for that, and once that occurred, we just brought that forward.
Thank you. Any questions from council? No questions. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The ayes have it. Thank you, Mr. Claus. Now down to third and final reading, ordinance number 743, an ordinance adopting the 2017 edition of the National Electrical Codes of the Mandatory Electric Code of for Fairfield County, South Carolina. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
So moved.
Seconded.
It's been moved and properly seconded. Any discussion? Mr. Clausen again, if you would, please.
Basically the same thing. It's just a different body that puts this out. So again, the state delayed adopting it, and we're now adopting it. It's just the cycle. So.
Okay. Any further comments from council? If no comments from council, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? The ayes have it. Now down to third and final reading, ordinance number 748, an ordinance authorizing Fairfield County to purchase certain real property in Fairfield County, South Carolina, authorizing the execution and delivery of a purchase agreement, an option agreement, and the right of first refusal agreement, authorizing the expenditure of certain grant funds and other related matters. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved and properly seconded. Before we get into discussions, Mr. Taylor, you want to speak on it, or?
Yes, this ordinance is to purchase 66.67 acres from Weyerhaeuser. This property is located on Peach Road. Again, the county for some time has looked to diversify the industrial property we have. Everything we have currently is in Dominion's territory, which is great, but it's also nice to have another partner, and this would be the co-ops. This property is in the co-op territory. There's certain advantages you get to having property in the co-op territory as far as you can pull down grant monies and such that they have available. We're looking to purchase 66.67 acres at $6,000 an acre. And I'll let our economic development director elaborate a little further on this particular deal because, again, as I mentioned earlier, we can take advantage of grant monies, and we're going to be able to take advantage of grant money in purchasing this property.
Wish they would have threw in another tenth of an acre because those are terrible numbers.
I know, it is odd how that came out.
Thank you, Mr. Taylor. Yeah, we will be purchasing, 66.67 acres. And the funds that we'll be using, we've got a $300,000 grant from the Department of Commerce, their site enhancement fund. And we've got additional funds from the Fairfield Electric Co-op to purchase the property and do engineering studies as well. So this shouldn't cost the county, anything at all as we move forward. And we've got about 500 acres total under option. So we'll take down the first, 67 acres of that, and we can purchase the rest in the future as we need it.
I think Mr. Pauly had a question.
I do. Go ahead.
I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
Mr. Davenport, if you can be brief, I received several emails from citizens who stated that we weren't being transparent on the purchase of property. Can you be brief and kind of describe what takes place in buying land and transparency of it?
Yes. So the concern we have is that because we don't have the property under contract when we're discussing it here in the public forum, that if a speculative land buyer were to come in and put it under contract or buy it kind of out from under us, we lose the opportunity. So in this case, somebody could come in and offer Weyerhaeuser more money than us, knowing that it was a good site, and then turn around and want to sell it back to us for more than they paid for it. And in the past, there's been other counties that has actually happened where they've actually lost projects where a speculative land buyer came in and bought the land out from under the county, and they lost their project and the employment opportunities and the investment and so forth.
So you would say we being as transparent as we can, right?
As in this case, as we possibly can, yes.
Thank you.
Mr. Bell.
One of the things I see Weyerhaeuser is gonna go ahead and can cut cut the timber 90 days after we close.
Correct, yes.
Okay. So all the timber from the property itself is going to be cultivated by Westinghouse.
If they choose to, yes. Now, we'll say about half the timber on this property is, the property was clear cut 4 years ago, 3, 4 years ago. So the timber on about half of it is not terribly valuable yet. But the other half is, I'm not an expert on timber, but it's getting closer to full grown, you know.
Further questions from council? Any further from you, Mr. Davenport?
No, thank you.
Okay. If nothing further, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Nay.
One nay. Thank you, Mr. Trapp. Now down to item E. An emergency ordinance number 749, renewal and combining of ordinance number 744, an emergency ordinance to declare a local state of emergency in Fairfield County, and ordinance number 747, Fairfield County emergency ordinance providing for conducting electronic meetings for Fairfield County Council and all Fairfield County boards and commissions. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
So moved. Second.
It's been moved and properly seconded. Discussion.
Explanation.
Well,
Yes, I have one question.
yes, sir, Mr. Bell.
One of the things, I guess, in the ordinance, it talks about the being able to manage kids from K through 12, correct? The question I have in that is now school is normally out sometime 1st of June. Are we trying to make provisions for anybody during that period of time?
What type of provisions are you,
The same type of provisions that's included in the ordinance.
you gonna have to refresh my memory because I've been through a lot of paperwork the last 2 days.
Yeah, let me try to.
Chairman Robinson.
Yes, sir, Mr. Douglas.
Isn't this for just providing for conducting electronic meetings for Fairfield County Council and all Fairfield County boards and commissions?
Yes, sir.
So what would that have to do with providing emergency for schools?
It's a certain part of, I think.
I think that is the majority
Yeah.
of it, as Councilman Douglas is saying. There is a section 1, item 5.
I can't remember exactly the verbiage of it, but you want to speak on it, Mr. Morgan?
Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman, members of council. What we did with this ordinance was basically take the two ordinances that have previously been passed by this council. 744 was the initial emergency ordinance, and then 747, which took the basically the structure of that emergency ordinance and then provided for the electronic meetings, because in the very original one, it allowed for the chairman to have the discretion to cancel meetings, et cetera. But then we wanted to make sure that the county could continue to conduct business. Council continues to conduct their meetings, meet with all applicable Freedom of Information Acts in the interest of transparency. The item that Mr. Bell has asked about is, as Mr. Taylor's correctly pointed out, is in subsection 1-5. And that was the provision which allowed for the administrator may modify the personnel policies for certain individuals in certain instances. If they have compromised immune systems, if they have inability to care for other sick individuals at the house, if they have children that are in the K through 12 public school system and the school closures caused hardships, they couldn't find it. It allowed for the administrator could. It said may make some changes to that. So that was, again, understanding the school year will be ending shortly. This ordinance is only valid for another 60 days from date of enactment. All the original ordinances, the emergency ordinances, expire on May 27th. Given the circumstances, that's the reason why this ordinance was to continue that state of emergency, given the increased number of cases and deaths here in Fairfield County.
That's correct.
So my question is, why would we need why would we need that part on it? What you're saying is because you just added that, you just put that in.
That was in the original, Mr. Bell. So all it is basically we took the first two and just recombined them and are basically renewing those previous policies, those previous ordinances, so that way it could extend for another 60 days.
All right, okay.
Any further discussion from council? If not, all those in favor of emergency ordinance number 749 renewal signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The ayes have it. No board and commission minutes, no board and commission appointments, no old business, no new business. Now down to our county administrator's report. Mr. Taylor.
Yes, sir. Thank you. First item I have, as we previously discussed, is the request of action concerning the Jaudy Park parking lot. We had previous estimates on what this would cost us. Those estimates turned out to be wrong. We have bid it out now. We have had 8 different bidders come in with bids, the lowest being Armstrong's Contractors at $179,949. We had budgeted $140,000 for this. Obviously, we are over that by $39,949, and we do have several options here for you all to consider. $39,949 is the minimum we need to meet the bid requirements. Sometimes, you do end up a few extra overages, so Mr. Clausen will present several other options. We have option 1, 2, and 3 for you all to consider.
While Mr. Clausen's coming, we'll go ahead and, do I have a motion for item A?
So moved.
It's been moved and properly seconded. Go ahead, Mr. Clausen.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of council. Yeah, so in discussing this with the engineer that we have hired since, and he really started to drill down on the numbers. He had estimated 175 on the low end to 225. So he hit the nail on the head. Everything came back. You can see the lowest bid again, 179. The next lowest bid was 196. So this is a good bid, very competitive. And the engineer of record now is found that they are, competent, and we can proceed with that. The other options are to add a little bit in case there are any change orders. That's just if something on the ground turns out to be different than what we'd expected, then we'd at least have option B is about $6,000. Option C is $15,000, which would be 10%, which would be an adequate cushion, if you will.
Chris,
But
give me those numbers again, please.
Yes, sir. It's on option 2 would be just allocate it's 45,000. So instead of the 39,949, just go to 45. That allow for just over 5,000 in case there are any minor cost overruns, and then option 3 would be 15,000. So there'd be about 10% that we could have for cost overruns. The engineer did not anticipate any, obviously, and we can still hold them to the 179 to do everything. But it's just sometimes with projects of this nature, you encounter something in the ground that you didn't anticipate, and so it's just much easier to do a cost. A change order to accommodate whatever may occur. So,
Mr. Chairman.
Kevin, Mr. Bell.
Mr. Clausen, have y'all looked at the, I'm sorry, the athletic director, recreation director not here, but have y'all looked at the drainage at any other of these parks? I guess what I'm wondering is, we bringing in this recommendation, and I see it's been approved by several people in the administration. But my question is, have we looked at the drainage in any of these other parks so that we can also recommend doing something in those areas?
This item was not directly related to an inventory of all the parks, but I think, as we can see with some of these heavy rain events, we probably should look at that. But in this case, what we're trying to do with this project is ensure that it's done properly so we don't have an issue on that site and we don't have to go back and fix it at a later date.
I would say.
Okay, and the other question I have, go ahead, I'm sorry, go ahead.
To further address that, yes, we have looked at some, and I would not deny that we need to address drainage in a number of other parks, including Rufus Belton.
Okay, and the other part is, have we looked at providing mini parks in these other areas that don't have anything? because here we are, making recommendations to council about spending an extra $39,949, and yet these other communities don't have anything, and we continue to put money and select a few areas, such as Jaudy Park. Okay, when the Jaudy Park Fitness Center gonna add over $400,000 to the budget next year. I mean, in 7 years.
Can I ask Mr. Price a question? Good evening. Where does most of the involvement from all of Fairfield County, where does most of the involvement come from? Is it the Winsboro area, Jenkinsville area, Blair area, Ridgeway area? Where does most of the involvement come from?
It's centrally located here.
Centrally located. So you would definitely need to improve those facilities because you have a higher volume of kids and people using those facilities.
Yes, sir. That's where we conduct most of our games. Obviously, in football, we actually play at the high school. They work really well with us, but we play majority of our games at Jaudy Park and Garden Street.
Okay, so if you had the facilities other places, would you direct activity to those other facilities?
We try to play some out there, Councilman Bell. You know
I'm just saying anywhere. It could be in Blair, anywhere. I mean, if we had facilities in these other areas, would you try to have activities in those areas from the recreation? And I know the answer is yes.
Yeah, we try to have activities
Okay.
throughout the county.
So because all the facilities are in Winsboro, that's where all the activities are.
No, I think for like field usage, I think most people feel it's more convenient to come here. You don't like the people in Jenkinsville don't like going to Ridgeway, and Ridgeway doesn't like going to Jenkinsville. It's just centrally located and it helps with travel, for the most part. But we try to go out to our surrounding areas and play some games.
Let me give you a quote by a guy. I'll tell you his name. He says, "A community is democratic only when the humblest and weakest person can enjoy the highest civil, economic, and social rights that the biggest and most powerful possesses." A. Philip Randolph. Okay, my point being is this one. If we continue to spend money and select areas and no money in other areas, we all going to get the same results. And it's not fair to this county.
Is our Mr. Price? Thank you. Is our program able to branch out? And I know you said it.
The numbers don't warrant leagues. In some areas you don't have age groups where they can field teams. You just don't have the numbers in the community. We try to, other than some washing at Rufus Belton. I think Rufus Belton has turned out to be a nice place to play. Jenkinsville, at Lake Monticello is a good place for them to play baseball and stuff. All football and soccer come into town because we play obviously at the high school, where we can put them on an appropriate size field and, give them that special feeling.
Okay, and one of the things that happened at and I took some pictures. I went out there. One of the things that happened is the sign for the facilities, and nobody knocked it down. It rotted down, and it's laying on the ground today. And I'm thinking the goals was taken down because of the COVID-19.
Correct.
Okay, but if you look at that basketball court, and I got pictures of it. One of the things is that our community spent the money to go ahead and put that cement on the ground there. We did that. The recreation department didn't do that. Okay, and you look at where it is, it need to be extended so people don't when they playing basketball, if they step over, they're gonna could very well spring an ankle or do something. And that piece of cement that got broke, someone drove over it. It's just been patched. Okay, but my problem is, I am not saying that we shouldn't do these things for Jaudy Park. That's not my point. My point is, just as we do it for Jaudy Park, we should do it for other parts of the county. That's no more than fair.
And a lot of that, Councilman Bell, I kind of listen to what y'all tell me to do on those things. It's, we'll provide whatever. That's our service, to provide recreation and nice things for the young and the old.
Mr. Price, when you're extending services and you're reaching out, trying to bring other services to other areas, your participation from the community is your main part of that. Is that not correct? You need to
Yes,
get
ma'am.
participation.
Correct.
Okay. Also, I hear that Mr. Bell is saying about other areas. You've just stated that certain sports are done in a centralized location. When you extend out and do other activities, that moves it into other areas of the county. No matter what you do or how you do, everybody is not going to participate. Everybody is not going to be satisfied. But the main thing is that there are activities for the students, there are activities for seniors, and we have to make compromises. I can't put everything in my back door, even though I would love to have it right there where I can walk out and go to it. It's not going to happen like that. That life is not like that. But we make sacrifices in order to make our life better, and that responsibility falls on us. Can't put it all in the recreation department, can't put it on the county or the town or whomever. It's up to us how we want to live our lives and what extent we're willing to go to if our children want to be involved in a football game. It's our responsibility to try to work with the recreation department, work with transportation to ensure that they get there. We play a big part in what happens in Fairfield County, the citizens of Fairfield County, the adults of Fairfield County. We play a big part of what happens. We can either make it good or we can sit back and whine and complain about everything that's going on. We can point fault and blame on everybody else, but we need to ensure that we are doing our part to make it happen good for Fairfield County.
One of the things I used to do is I used to coach Little League baseball. Okay, before the Jaudy Park was in the before it was in the county system. One of the things, as you talk about that, Ms. Bertha, one of the most active fields was Longtown Field, and the reason it was because that's where everybody had to come at the time, because that was the field. My point is this: if we directed activities, if we had the facility at Longtown or in Blair or wherever, if the facilities was there, the people would come. Ralph Waldo Emerson said, "You know what? If you build a good mousetrap, the people will come." I'm just telling you facts. I mean, we can sit here and don't want to believe it, or have some ulterior motive to think about how we do it. Everybody in this room know it's not fair to continue to put county money all focus in one area without putting it in other areas.
It's not focusing just on one area, it's focusing on an area that can be expanded out. When you start to grow a town or a county, you have to have a centralized location. And from that point, everything, sure, okay, we can set a park in Ridgeway. Do we have the businesses, the food, and all the other stuff that's going to be necessary to go with that? All towns are built from a start point and expand out. And it's up to us how far it expands and how good it gets if we work together. It's just that simple.
Yes, ma'am, but what you're saying is not based on data.
It's based on life facts. That's it, just life facts. Just living life and seeing how things go.
Let's get back on track and get back to the options.
Chairman Robinson,
Yes, sir, Mr. Douglas.
let's get back to what we were supposed to be talking about. Mr. Taylor said that, can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Yes, sir, I hear you. Go ahead.
Mr. Taylor said that, we went to the trouble of adding extra money to the contracts, so if they had an overrun, we'd have it in the budget. That's not the way you do business in my way. Anytime I make a bid on a job, it's up to me to research and make sure I'm not going to need more money.
Right.
I don't think we should have any extra money waiting on these people, because when they find that out, they're gonna find out something's wrong. If they are good enough and make a bid on a piece of property to do work, that's what they get paid. They don't get paid overruns.
I definitely would have to agree with you. I wouldn't want to have any extra money hanging. That's why I don't like the options. If they need an additional 39,000, I think 39,000 should do it, and that's it, because of the previous miscalculations by the company we
No,
used
if they
previously.
need if they need extra money, they got to prove why they need extra money, and show us why they spent all the money without using it the right way.
Okay.
All right, thank you.
All right. If no further discussion, like I said, let's go ahead and entertain a vote. I think I'm getting a consensus from everyone. I know Mr. Clausen threw options at us, but am I getting a consensus from everyone to allocate the additional 39,000, or what is council thinking?
Mr. Chair, I move that that they be given $140,000 as they got today. If I can get a second.
Motion been
I
made by
second.
Mr. Bell and seconded by Mr. Trapp to give them the money allocated and nothing further. Any further discussion on that? If no discussion, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
I think that's Mr. Trapp, Mr. Bell, and Mr. Douglas. All those nays,
Right.
all those not in favor signify by saying nay.
Nay.
Nay. Nays have it.
I make a motion that we give them the extra 39,000 to make it 179 and leave it at that.
No, they're not asking for it. They don't even know anything about the administrator adding extra money to this. They were just doing this to have it there just in case they had a cost overrun. You don't give somebody extra money when they bid on a contract.
Yeah, Mr. Douglas, I think you misunderstood. You want to explain to him, Miss?
Yes, Councilman Douglas. We did bid this project out. The other two options 2 and 3, are to give an additional kind of cushion amount of money. But option 1 is really only to meet what their bid is. They were the low bid at 179, 949. All others were much higher than that, going up to 300,000. So this is not to give them additional money. This is just to meet their minimum bid.
All right.
Okay.
Motion's been made by Mr. Pauly to give them additional 39,000. I think it's 949.
I second it.
It's been seconded by Councilman Gilbert. Any discussion? No discussion. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Any opposed?
Aye.
Nay.
That's 2 nays. And the ayes have it. Now down to item B, Mr. Taylor.
This next item we have, just want to update County Council on the food distribution project. I'll let Ms. Laura Johnson talk about this, but we have had a food distribution project working with one of the food banks out of Columbia, and we had one here in Winsboro. I think it's gone very well. We had one this last weekend in Ridgeway, which went very smoothly, was well attended. But Ms. Johnson, if you'd like to go, and I think we have one coming up in Jenkinsville.
Yes.
Good evening, Council. Fairfield County Council hosted mobile food pantries in partnership with Harvest Hope in response to the COVID-19 pandemic. On May 16th, we had one here at the admin building from 12 to 2. We actually had to start early because cars started lining up at 11 o'clock. So we serviced 101 cars, supplying food to 197 people in the households. They received a Fairfield County tote bag of non-perishable items, a bag of greens, either leeks or turnips, and a bag of corn on the cob. On May 23rd, we had another food pantry, Ridgeway Fire Station. We serviced 100 cars, supplying food to 227 people in the household. They received, again, a Fairfield County tote bag of non-perishable items, a bag of grapefruit, and 2 small plastic containers of tomatoes. And I think they started lining up early as well. We actually, as we were packing up, more cars were actually coming. So we didn't have any more to give out. And coming up, May 30th, we're going to be at Jenkinsville Fire Station from 12 to 2. And we look forward to that success as well. Coming up hopefully in June, next month, we want to have another food distribution in collaboration with Fairfield Ford, hopefully having them at the same locations that we had the Harvest Hope Mobile Pantry. And this distribution will be only fresh fruits and vegetables. So we're still in the process of getting all of that together, again, working in conjunction with Fairfield Ford.
That's made possible through a Duke grant endowment?
Yeah,
Duke endowment.
Duke Endowment Grant.
Sounds good.
But again, just thank you to Harvest Hope Food Bank. That was a wonderful
Yes,
thing. It's been
that's good.
well attended. The next thing that we have on the agenda is really to discuss how we're moving forward in relation to the virus. I do have Brad, who will talk about some of it. I do have, I think Russell is supposed to be here also to talk about how we're moving forward with recreation. But again, you all voted to extend the emergency measures, and I think that was prudent. The fact that our numbers have spiked. We have gone up and up and up over the last couple of weeks. We're at 160 approximately cases, had 3 more deaths today, which I think puts us at 11 deaths. So unfortunately, our numbers have not leveled off. They've continued to rise. We were looking to go ahead and start bringing back employees this week, and we are starting to phase that in, taking precautionary measures, mask and cleaning and things such as social distancing. You'll see around the office we put up a number of plexiglass barriers to, again, protect people. We have looked at starting to think about bringing the public back, but we're going to delay that probably a little longer, again, with our numbers going up. But Brad, you will talk about, again, some of the additional measures we're taking to keep everyone safe.
So as Mr. Taylor discussed there, our number one objective is to protect our employees. And so as we kind of took people out of the workplace in phases, we're kind of bringing them back in phases also. We were working in modified schedules, limited people in office places. But as he said today, we have brought most of our employees back. Before all this took place, we did have a department head meeting and we had a training or kind of just an outline of some policies and some things that we all needed to be doing to get ready. So before any employees were brought back, we had all of our barriers in place. We had all of our policies in place and cleaning items and PPE, all that stuff that goes along with that. Upon their return today, everybody was trained on the updated policies and procedures, the do's and don'ts, social distancing, and all the sanitary measures that are changing now. It's been a huge strain on our maintenance staff, as y'all can imagine. And so a lot of the departments and employees themselves are having to kind of pick up a little bit more responsibility there and clean their own workstations, but everybody's been very good about that, really willing to do that. Each department turned in an action plan as to how they're going to operate, what measures they're going to take to try to, limit all the things that we've heard so much about that spreads the virus. So everybody's back. They've been trained. They have all the equipment and all that they need. As far as we know, we've put up all the barriers in place and all that we need to limit the spread of anything. We are accommodating high-risk employees and employees with child care needs as the law mandates. Mr. Morgan mentioned a little bit of that earlier. But we are allowing people to telework, to work from home, and kind of come in, splitting up times and all when needed. We'll continue to prepare for opening to the public, as Mr. Taylor mentioned. There's a lot of modifications. There's a ton of safety aspects to it all, controlling traffic flow and having the right barriers and all that in place. So we'll work on that. And just like we did with bringing the employees back, we'll take it in steps. We're not in a huge hurry. We want to be sure that everybody is protected first and foremost. We'll continue to monitor the DHEC reports every day, and we can respond however we need to with that. I will mention, we have, as y'all probably know, the inmates have not been allowed to come out and work. So we do have some labor shortfall, and we've had some temporary staff. We're going to be working with the temporary staff to transition to other departments where we need them, and utilize them and let them get some hours. Some of the recreation staff has already done that, so we're very appreciative to that also. But we'll be working with more temp staff to place them and to help them get hours and get the work done that we needed to get done all around the county. So that's pretty much where we are right now.
Chairman Robinson,
Yes, sir, Mr. Douglas.
how many reported cases do we have of the coronavirus in the county?
I think we're at 160 right now, and it tends to be growing 5 to 10 to 20 every day. That's what we've seen over the last 2 weeks.
Okay, thanks.
Mr. Taylor, are you able to give me the overall consensus, being that today is day one for the employees that came back to work today, or just a general overall feeling, or workers scared, or,
I mean, I didn't get that feeling. Unfortunately, I was in meetings most of the day and really didn't get to interact with a lot of the staff.
I think we had a lot of interaction leading up to this with everybody, trying to get any kind of
informed.
special accommodations, training, everything anybody may need, to feel comfortable about coming back. So it was a pretty quiet day, actually.
Okay.
One of the things I will add, and this is coming out of the governor's office, which as we move toward meeting with the public more often, and even now when we're sporadically meeting with them, we're needing to keep list of who we meet with, just in case I come down or Brad comes down, so then we can go back and notify everyone we met with that you have possibly been exposed. So we will have to do things like that also.
Yeah.
Mr. Bell?
The question I have is, when we start meeting with more people, will we be required to wear masks and that kind of thing? For instance, like if I go to the like when you open up the treasurer's office, I'm just use that for instance. Would they be required to wear masks?
I think it's going to be heavily encouraged at this point. I don't know that we can require.
You cannot require it, okay.
But we're going to heavily encourage, and with the courthouse especially, we're going to have to post someone at the door, letting a certain amount of people in, and then again, keeping a record of who does come in. And then again, the traffic flow, they'll have to come in one way and go out another.
Okay, and I think Ms. Johnson said you can't require it, right? Okay.
We have put up, you'll also notice at the courthouse, the signs, 6-foot distance, and we've tried to get those signs put up everywhere to, again, just continue to remind people. We can't make it perfect, but we can continue to remind and encourage people to
Numbers are definitely going up.
Staff with masks and gloves.
Ms. Johnson, do you want to add anything to that before we go into recreation?
Oh, just one. Sorry. I was just saying we've supplied all of our departments with masks, hand sanitizers, some cleaning solutions, and also some gloves. And I've been going around to various departments discussing their needs, putting up guards and things like that to protect them. So we're trying to make them feel as comfortable as possible, especially when we open back up to the public.
You were able to acquire a good bit of hand sanitizer, so we do have that out everywhere.
Yes, we've been doing that as well.
Where's that gold mine at? I need to find that myself.
Can't tell you my secret.
We do have several of the department heads here, and the sheriff also, if you would like to comment on how, we'll get to Russell and
Okay.
we have Mr. Pope, the sheriff, and Mr. Tanner here. Do you all want to comment on any procedures you all are changing? I know Mr. Pope and I talked a little bit about how you're dealing with certain hot spots. Not to be a pun there, but on how you're responding. You want to? Just briefly, just make a brief comment.
Yes, good evening. We've had to make several changes, mainly related to medical response. We've cut back a lot of things we do on the medical side of the house that's to support EMS. But what Ms. Taylor was talking about is we've had to put in a policy for our institutions, such as assisted living, nursing homes, that kind of thing. It's a generic policy, but it basically says, because we have a lot of fire alarms that we have to go to. So if we do respond to a fire alarm, once we approach the building, we don't see anything. Obviously, there's nothing, see anything, smell anything, hear anything. We're not going to make entry into the building unless we have to. We're going to inform the staff. We have a good working relationship with a lot of them to let them know of our change in policy, and then require one of the staff members to come meet us outside to ask them the same questions. Do you see anything, hear anything, smell anything? If nothing, then we're going to just kind of slow down and not go inside unless we have to. That's some of the main things that we've had to do as far as changes.
Mr. Tanner, anything you'd like to add? You all.
Mine's not so brief about, what we're facing and some of the policies.
Come on up. Let's.
We definitely like
Michael Trapp.
get back to the public. So
I just want to let you know what we've been facing here in the last little bit. This is unprecedented times for us. I've been in EMS since 1984, and I've never seen anything like this. We've had to change some policies and procedures. Just over the last 30 days, we've ran 350 calls, and of those calls, 46 were COVID-related outside of the nursing home.
36.
46.
46.
And then 38 were COVID positive patients that were in the nursing home. That's just the last 30 days.
Wow.
So our guys have been exposed on a daily basis, to a potentially fatal disease. This has impacted us because not only does it impact our employees, it impacts the employees and their family.
Yes.
Like me, I haven't been able to see my mom and dad for over 3 months now. I'm not going to be the one that take it to their house, because they're elderly. And my employees are going through the same thing. I've got employees living in campers. I've got employees staying in hotel rooms because they don't want to bring this home to their families. They have, like I said, a significant risk because they're in the back of the ambulance for almost an hour with a known positive patient. And you can't get 6 foot away in the back of an ambulance. We take the proper, precautions that we have implemented. So now we have to wear full protective equipment on every single call. Can you imagine wearing a mask, goggles, gowns, trying to perform CPR on somebody, trying to get somebody out of a ditch, cutting somebody out of a car? Our guys, like I said, they don't complain much, but let me tell you, the last, 3 months have been unprecedented in the amount of work they've had to do, the amount of stress they had to undergo because of, this potentially fatal disease. I've had one employee that was positive. She spent 6 days in the ICU. She spent 2 weeks in the hospital, and she missed 3 weeks of work. I've had other employees that were tested positive for the antigen. So in other words, they have been exposed, but they were asymptomatic. They didn't have any symptoms. But they faced that. We had employees that were on the quarantine. We had employees that had to self-isolate. I have employees that hadn't stepped foot back in their house since this started.
Asymptomatic. I'm just asking because I want to be knowledgeable myself.
Okay.
Asymptomatic patients.
Asymptomatic patients. You could be
carry that. They carry that continuously.
They can they carry it for a certain amount of time until the body actually gets rid of the virus.
Okay.
So the recommendations are 14 days after you've been exposed, but you could have that whole 14 days that you had the virus in you, never have a sign or symptom, and you could be spreading it to any and everybody else. So just because you don't have signs and symptoms doesn't mean that you can't be a carrier.
Question, sir. If they test positive, do they self quarantine or do they go back to work?
The employee?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, we won't let them come back to work. They stay out for a certain amount of time, and then they have to have a doctor's release to be able to come back to work. And we've had to hold 6 employees out. Like I said, one employee actually spent time in the hospital. we've used over 700 masks in the last 30 days. I mean, this is how much PPE we have to use on every single call. That's 700 masks, 700 gowns, 700 pairs of gloves that, our guys have to sit there and wear all this extra protective equipment on every single call, because just because you don't have any signs and symptoms doesn't mean you don't have the disease. And that's some of the issues we're having to face on a daily basis. And like the DHEC website, as of yesterday, there was 160 reported, but they're estimating another 983 in this county for a total of over 1,100 cases in the county. So, I've got with administration, we want to change some of the things we do. We want to get washers and dryers for every substation, because my guys, when they get home, they're having to strip outside their house. I feel sure the neighbors don't like it too much, but, they don't want to bring virus-laden uniforms into their own house with their kids, with their parents, or anything like that. And like I said, we had to make policy changes as far as full PPE on every call, regardless of the call. It doesn't matter if it's an auto accident. Just because you crash your car don't mean you don't have the virus. So we had to make some significant changes in that. And like I said, our guys, this is unprecedented. And they have gone above and beyond, haven't complained, but the stress is there and the stress is real because they deal with it on a daily basis.
And we have updated our fire stations up to decontamination status, correct? Some of them, or
We're working in that direction.
we're working on it? Okay.
And like Jason was saying, we don't have the help that we usually had, because we're trying to eliminate the amount of potential exposure that the fire department has, the rescue squad has, that normally we would have their help during certain educations or just getting a patient out of a house, larger patients or patients that are hard to get to. We'd have their help. But now we're on our own. We're out there by ourselves trying to take care of these patients.
Thanks, Mike. Any
Mr. Chair,
Mr. Bennett?
I really, I want to thank you for all the work you do. I really do. It's a big sacrifice, and I just want to thank you for everything that you all do, and trying to provide emergency medical attention to our citizens. I can't say that loud enough, sir, because of what you do. A study I read about 2 or 3 days ago, and it came from the people in New York. One of the things they were saying is, if people wear their PPE, they have found out that they are safer than the persons that are out there in the public with the emergency medical stuff. So one of the things you're doing, when I heard you talked about how important it is, the 700 masks, the 700 gowns. I'm saying whatever you need for PPE, and I think I can speak for this entire council. You got it, and please don't shortcome when it comes to that kind of stuff, because they found out if you do it, if you wear your PPE, you're safer than people in the public.
We train on that on a daily basis, and I'll give my guys credit. They wear it appropriately. They wear it all the time, and that's the reason we hadn't had our guys out or succumb to this virus yet. They've been wearing the PPE they're supposed to. It's definitely been working.
And I definitely want to say to each and every one of you, thank you. You know, from the beginning, how you exposed and made such a great sacrifice for others. You mentioned being in the ambulance with someone that is positive, that you know for sure, but you be with so many that you don't know. And that's the other threat, and that's the other danger to you and your family. So I just say to each and every one of you, thank you so much. I feel for you, that you're making a great sacrifice. The sheriff department, everybody, you're making extremely, and sometimes I think people take it for granted. And they put you in a box with other people, but you're not. You are frontline warriors, and I say thank you so much.
Thank you. Any further comments from council on Mr. Thanks, Mike.
Sheriff, you would like to add anything?
Thanks. Unfortunately, like the rest of the first responders, we've got to respond to calls, and our deputies have continued to do that. I'm very proud of all of our deputies.
I can
some
imagine,
of the things that we have.
Imagine your domestic violence calls went up too.
Absolutely. As far as the deputies go, like I'm saying, they've got to continue to answer these calls, and we're asking them to wear masks and gloves and everything else they need. The office, we shut the office down for 3 weeks. And that's another thing that we really can't shut down completely. There's certain things that the public's got to come in and do inside our office. So we had to have people inside the office to open the door and let people in and deal with that. But as far as our policies going, we're keeping the office real clean and making sure everybody's safe. And if somebody is sick, we make them quarantine for 14 days.
Thanks, Sheriff.
And Mr. Price, this is Mr. Price. Oh, there you go. Recreation is obviously, a lot of that involves close contact and bringing people out into crowds. And so that's very problematic. And I will let Mr. Price go over. We've met a number of times to try to formulate how we move forward at this time. And a lot of things, unfortunately, will be put on hold and deferred to later. Mr. Price?
Okay. All right, did everybody get to this back? Okay. I got some handouts just to show you. There are a few, just to give you a quick update on some things. Obviously, the facilities and parks are closed to the public at this time. And some of these stuff that we put in here is just our proposal. Obviously, it come from administration and council of what we wanted to do, but we put some things up. Reopening athletic fields, playgrounds, and tennis courts. We looked at June 1st. One thing they're saying is to do these things at your own risk. We got something today on playgrounds. We do not have to sanitize. We do not have to put up any signage, anything. So what we've been doing for 9 weeks now is they've started at this level and they keep coming down. So we're really kind of confused with the whole stuff, but we'll get to that a little bit later too. All full-time staff is back working in the office. Maneuver some employees around just for our upstairs for the people that've been to the rec center is only 1,000 square foot. We had 6 people in the office. So we have moved a couple of people that will be going with our maintenance department because we are shorthanded with that. Obviously, Mr. Carter spoke about inmates. We lost 4 that help keep up all our facilities. So we're on a shortage there. What we've been doing is daily and weekly meetings. I've met with Ms. Johnson, Mr. Taylor, Mr. Carter at least once a week for the past, 4 or 5 weeks. I have a weekly Zoom meeting, which was today with the state directors within SCRPA. We found out today that you can open back playgrounds. One thing that we've learned, and I've shared with Mr. Taylor, is everybody's different. Everybody, you go to City Columbia, they're not opening and playing ball till August 3rd. Their summer camp shut down right now. Their pools are shut down right now. Then you can go to Rock Hill and they're trying to get going, playing this weekend. It's, it varies from wherever. So it will be, the administration and council to decide those types of.
And I will say, one size does not fit all. Each county has a different situation, and we are trying to look at and keep up with what other counties are doing also. So, again, we can somewhat model ourselves on others that may be experiencing similar things to us as far as increased numbers.
Okay, if I may ask, in your meeting, did anything come up as far as the virus that the children are beginning to have now? Has anything come up about that?
No, ma'am, not really. Some places are taking an aggressive stance of trying to get it. Some are want to be cautious. It's how you feel. Chairman said something about how did employees feel, asking Mr. Taylor. Mine are somewhat scared, especially when you think about opening the doors and those small confines and then dealing with children and interacting with them. I mean, social distancing is kind of tough with a 5-year-old.
I know that.
Restrooms. It's a lot of things to process. And we have prepared, we've got policies on all that from summer camps to our athletic stuff. When the time comes, I can get that stuff to you. And it's changing daily. I mean, it really is. Summer camp at first started off 5 people per 1,000 square foot. Well, we got almost 10,000. So we'd have 50 people, 50 kids that we could host. Well, we're going to have 14 counselors. So we could only host 36 kids this year compared to what we've hosted 80 in the past. So it's all kind of things that come into play of, when you open.
Is it, I would not beneficial, but I guess you have to look at the cost analysis.
Yeah, we've done kind of a cost-benefit analysis on some of these things. And with summer camp, for an example, we could not host that many. It would take a lot of staff to do it. And one of my big fears also is if we open up summer camp, we take fees and registration fees from people, and parents are depending on us, and we have one person test positive, we'd have to shut the whole thing down. Or I think that would be the prudent thing to do, is shut it down. And then we've got a situation where we're having to fund money, people are counting on us, and then we can't offer the service. So that's problematic.
And the other thing is, how do you make a distinction between who attends, when they attend?
We looked at that. We'd have to do a lottery system because we already have more people apply than we have spots, but even reducing it to 30-something, that's going to be, how do we pick and choose?
Have you considered doing shorter time periods?
Well, that's a great point. In Kershaw County, they go from 9 to 3, and they do it Monday through Thursday. But, you got to understand what is the biggest benefit for the citizens of Fairfield County. Well, obviously, if you run summer camp, you got to shut everything else down. So the fitness center wouldn't open, your walking wouldn't open, your Zumba classes, all that stuff would have to be shut down. And if you only did it Monday through Thursday, say 9 to 3, or you ran it 9 to 2 daily, is that going to help people that are working? Those are questions that we've thought about, and you'll see down the, Parks and Rec, where we do some stuff outside. We're trying to do all the policy procedures, obviously from our county, but then from the CDC to DHEC. On one positive spin, we did have to cancel our baseball, softball, and our Get Fit program. We had almost 400 members or participants in those programs, and I think we only had 40 that asked for a refund. The rest wanted theirs just credited to their account. So that was good. That they're going to come back, and we're not going to be losing people. Our programs, like we said, we mentioned about right now, our summer day camps. It's on hold. I think we've talked about revisiting that on June 15th. The earliest we'd look at starting would be July 6th. Athletic spring sports have canceled. One thing that we're looking in July is to have clinics, baseball, softball, football, soccer clinics, where you cannot, you can kind of keep them separated, just to give them something for that. The pool and fitness, the pool is a different beast. People are opening up pools now. I'm not having people just jumping to go work at the pool right now.
You heard about the situation in Arkansas?
No, sir.
They had this pool party with teenagers, and a whole bunch of people got infected. And that's one of the hot spots now.
And see, I imagine some of my employees will read that, and then they'll definitely not want to go. But and those things are just tough calls. We want to provide things because that's our job. We take pride in serving our community, and right now you can't. And just waiting to see. And the main thing too is being our employees, like Brad said, is their safety and health is the key thing right now. We want to make sure that they're safe and they're protected, and moving forward. So that's kind of that. And I put in some reopening things that phases that we looked at, and we've been about right on schedule. I think I gave y'all this about 3 or 4 weeks ago. We're online to very similar to what some other people are doing and what the governor's doing. And with the governor, where people get confused, is what he tells you is it's just a recommendation. He's totally against basketball right now. Whether it be outside, inside, that's probably going to lift towards the end of it, but he still doesn't recommend you going out there and doing it. People think that if he opens up they're opening up May 31st that you can start playing games, baseball. That's not the case. Lexington County is they're not going to open up till July 1st when they would play. I mean, so we've got the option to do what we think is best for the citizens. And I try to keep Mr. Taylor, Ms. Johnson, Mr. Collar informed as much as possible on which ways, avenues we should go. So this has got some stuff to look at. I'd be happy to answer any questions that you got. Staff has really worked hard. We went and toured Lancaster the other day just to see how they were going to do their summer camp. And then I went to the pool. It's just different. I mean, you're talking about pool where you're not going to put out chairs. Limiting your number of people, no longer doing rentals. I mean, it's just some things to think about.
Definitely. Any further questions from council?
Just to comment, as you open up recreation more, it also goes back to putting more responsibility and pressure on your EMS, your sheriff department, because all of that is involved in there. And that control, safety, injuries, all of that goes back to putting more responsibility on them as well. So, from my view as to what's going on right now, we need to err on the side of caution as long as possible to protect the citizens, to protect the employees, to protect the children, the community. No one has any control over this virus.
I agree.
So we need to err on the side of caution and use wisdom.
And to add, the public here has been very understanding from us having to cancel our seasons. To moving forward of not sure about summer camps because we don't know, and if we do have it, it's going to be totally different than what's been in the past. I can tell you the 9 weeks that we've been dealing with this, 95% of my phone calls and staff have been about Lake Monticello, whether people can camp out there or that. They're not calling about. Now we started to get a couple phone calls about pool, but I mean they're not calling about fitness center opening or, I mean, I think our community is still very respectful of the virus.
Yeah, I agree with Ms. Bertha, Ms. Goins, Councilman Goins. I really do. And thank you for.
Thank you, Russ.
Thank you.
One more item on the business side, how businesses are being affected by this. We do have Mr. Gene Stevens here from the chamber, and we've been working with the chamber and staying in communication with them. And the chairman has discussed doing an ad hoc committee to see if there's anything to explore, options that may be out there for us to work with the chamber to help assist small businesses. We do need to explore it, look at it, and see if there is any possibility there. But Mr. Stevens, I think, has been working to help people, our businesses in the community, access what's been put and made available by the federal government. And I'll let him comment on what they've been doing.
Yes, thank you so much. I haven't had a chance to address you all since all this happened. I will add, as far as precautions go, the farmers market's been open the last 2 weeks, and we've taken precautions there. The chamber's actually been purchasing gloves, and actually got a donation from Miss Laura, gave me a box of masks. But gloves, masks, hand sanitizer. So when people come in the farmers market building, they're coming in and then going out. We're limiting to 20 patrons at a time. We reached out to different, like Clemson Extension, different farmers markets and things like that to see what they're doing. And we're following the CDC guidelines. The way they are written is as close as possible. I will say I had several nice conversations with some of our merchants just to make sure that we're taking the precautions. But they are taking those precautions, and we've had pretty good numbers the last 2 weeks. I know the first week we had close to 200 people come in. I'm not sure about this past weekend. Just got back in town, so I haven't talked to Valerie yet about what they did. So that's just a precaution thing, you know. Since it started, our small businesses have taken a big hit. I mean, I would say pretty much for the last 8 weeks, they're told to shut down. Our restaurants have been able to stay open on a limited basis, doing takeout and things like that. And some of them have done very well. They have, been able to continue the takeout services. We had some, at one point in time, we didn't have a single restaurant open in Ridgeway. So a lot of them actually closed down just as precaution. I actually just found out that Old Town Hall's about to open back up, so we'll almost be back to all of our restaurants at least open doing something. And a lot of them have continued to still do the takeout services, even though they are allowed to do, at first the governor allowed them to do outdoor dining. And the town of Winsboro was phenomenal as far as there are some ordinances that kind of got in the way. They kind of worked those around it, actually waived the fee that was going to go with being able to do outdoor dining. So I appreciate them doing that. And then when they can open up and do 50% capacity, a lot of our restaurants still haven't done that. They're still being very cautious. I just came back from vacation, and I will tell you this: where I was at, they aren't taking those precautions. Every restaurant, I mean, you had waits at pretty much every restaurant. The stores, they're not limiting the number of people that can come in and things like that. So, like Mr. Price said, every county doesn't fit the same mold. You have to find what works best for you. A lot of our businesses have been reluctant to open up, like our shops and things like that, our mercantile businesses, because of I'll be honest with you, with the population, there's still some worry out there. So some of them have been opening up on a limited basis, maybe for 3 hours in a day, trying to limit the number of people that come in. Some have chosen not to open up yet. They're not going to open up until maybe mid-June, maybe July. But they have been able to maintain themselves. Let's put it that way. Some have been doing it by appointment, so you can let someone in the store and they can shop privately and then let them out and get their purchases and things like that. I will say throughout this process, when it first started, Mr. Taylor reached out to me, and I met with him and Mr. Davenport and Mr. Clausen, and we sat down and talked about what are some of the impact on the small businesses. And I will tell you, I knew, kind of had a heads up on what was coming as far as some of the federal funds and things like that. And we were able to sit down and talk about that. And I told him, I said, basically, a lot of this stuff is going to come out. It's going to be a lot of paycheck, payroll and stuff like that. But as far as costs to actually help different things, as far as your overhead, your your rent costs, your mortgage, things like that, there wasn't a lot that's actually coming out as far as federal funds go. Some of the things that have come, the SBA in phase 1 basically was allowed to give disaster loans. I did not encourage businesses to take those. I've actively encouraged them not to take those unless it's just absolutely dire straits. They have to keep their doors open by getting some extra funds, just because those are fully payback loans. And I knew that there were actually some funds that were going to come that are forgivable loans. So I tried to encourage them not to unless they absolutely had to. Right after that, you had phase 2. Phase 2 was basically offering help for employees. So if an employee had to go out for, let's say, your quarantine is 14 days. Let's say an employee had to go out for 14 days. It allowed the employer to still pay their full salary and get tax credit to refund them for that. So they could keep them on the payroll. You didn't have to just cut them and send them to unemployment. You also had child care services, so that if you didn't have someone to take care of your child, you had to miss, or your child was sick or something like that, you could take off those 14 days as well. So that kind of helped. Well, 2 weeks is what it was. So that kind of helped that. Then you had phase 3. Phase 3 was actually the introduction of the PPP funds. That's the payroll protection program. Those funds, I will say this, they went by like that. Of the 30 million businesses, small businesses that are businesses that are considered small business in the United States, and that includes nonprofits like churches, even chambers and things like that. But of 30 million available, only 1.8 million were actually able to procure those funds. So you had a large percentage that wasn't. I only know of a couple in Fairfield County that were able to, they got on the list early. They were able to get the funds before they ran out. Let's be honest, they ran out in a couple days. And the process was they rushed it, to be honest. They rushed the process, getting it. The banks were still, that Thursday afternoon, I was on the phone with our local banks trying to figure out, are y'all ready to take people tomorrow? So I can let them know this is, let them know the process, because the process still wasn't. And they were on the phone with the SBA while I was on the phone with them trying to get clarification on this. And it was kind of hectic that first week. I will say this, there's been a second release, I guess you can call it phase 4 of PPP funds. And those are not taken up yet. So there's actually still a lot that's out there. I actually sent an email out today just letting everybody know that what's happened is during that first time, a lot of our businesses applied for it, and this is around the country. So a lot of businesses applied for it, and they weren't able to procure those funds just for many different reasons. But a lot of it was actually the ambiguity. Getting tongue tied, my bad. The ambiguity of the actual process itself. Thank you, I appreciate that. So that now they've got that process streamlined. A lot of them you can do it online, but those funds are actually available. A lot of our businesses didn't apply the second round because they had already been rejected the first time, so they were worried about that. But I was letting people know. I actually sent out some information today, letting people know that you can actually apply for funds, and there are a lot of funds out there still left. We spoke to a person with the SBA today, and they said yes, there's a lot of funds still available. As far as the chamber goes, since this started, I've been trying to make it easy for people to access the information. And I'll be honest with you, it wasn't easy at first, just because the fact that we're trying to, we're in a time where we haven't experienced this before. So, we're all learning as we go. We're trying to rush these programs through. And I say, talk about I'm talking about from the federal government standpoint. So those programs will come out, and just being able to provide folks the information to be able to do, making it as simple as, providing them with the application, letting them know the forms and stuff they needed to do, letting them know the numbers they needed to call, what banks, and, just call, set up your time. That way you can meet with that bank, go ahead and get your funds applied for, different things like that. We've tried to provide that information. I've tried to make it easy for them to, with helping their employees, the ones that have to, lay off employees. They could take the information that I've sent out, and they can actually meet with the employee. Hey, you can't, we're going to have to send you home for a while, but they could actually fill out their unemployment benefits before they left the building, because I had the link and everything right there. And I know that the WIOA office has done an outstanding job. There were so many, again, this is a different time. So having, that process wasn't streamlined. It's gotten a little better now, but they've been working their tails off on trying to help these people. I've had to send several people to their office that I wasn't able to actually maneuver through it, and they had the answers that I didn't, so they've done a great job. And we've done, given updates on different things as far as, what you can do, what you can't do, as far as, like Russell said, you can't, everything's a recommendation. That when they open up the state park, I'll tell you, every Saturday and Sunday the state park has been open, they've had to close the gates at 1:00, just because we've had so many people coming. And Dylan was there this past weekend, said the same thing. Sunday by 1:00, they were shutting the gates because they had so many people out there. Been encouraging people to, do some different things outdoors. I've been to the Palmetto Trail several times. There've been a lot of people out there enjoying some of the nature that goes, that we have in Fairfield County. From a tourism standpoint, the tourist rides, all that kind of stuff, a lot of that actually opened up this past weekend, so people can start taking advantage of those things, like, let's say, museums and things like that. I will provide information later on this week once I get some solid dates from folks. I was talking to Mr. Henry at the Railroad Museum today, and he told me that they're not sure when they're going to open, but they're working on dates and things like that. Got to get with Pelham, see when she's going to open the museum, different things like that, to find out exactly, let everybody know what's going on in Fairfield County, what's going to be available to them. The two things that are glaring lacks for our county, the things that have kind of jumped out to us, and actually Ms. Laura called me about one, was about our businesses are not suited, a lot of them are not suited for a time like this. So if they don't have that brick and mortar building, if someone can't walk in their door and buy something, they don't have the capability to sell that product. And that's been a glaring just notice. Mr. Taylor has talked to me about it. It's like, Gene, what can we do? And kind of brought up some suggestions, kind of creating a virtual Winsboro. So I'm actually working with a designer right now that's going to come in, and we're still trying to figure out how we're going to do it, because we don't know where we're going to be within the next week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 4 weeks. But we're going to offer training for our businesses so that they can come in, they can create their e-commerce site, whether that be a website or whether that be a Facebook marketplace. So they have access to, let's be honest, it makes it more efficient for them. Right now our people, what's happened is some can put something on Facebook, but they don't have the actual formula to ship it out, they got to set up PayPal accounts, different things like that. They're not set up to do e-commerce, efficiently. So we want to help them coming out of this. We want to help them be able to do e-commerce efficiently. And that's one of the things that we're working on right now. And the other thing is, of all the funds and things like that have been given out from the federal standpoint, A lot of that goes back to the employee. So it's, being able to pay the employee and the payroll protection and things like that. Even the PPP funds, it's a forgivable fund, but 80% has to be used on your payroll. So 20% can go towards different things, like can't go towards inventory, and it can't go towards mortgage. It can go towards interest on mortgage, and it can go towards rent, and then go towards utilities, but it can't go on those other things. And so there's a glaring disparity as far as that goes. In that if you look around, one of the first ones announced, the city of Columbia decided to do a stimulus program for their businesses. Now they came out and said $6 million. It's not $6 million. It's $500,000. But it
Look good on paper.
It looked good, real good on paper. So I actually spent the lady that put that program together in Columbia spent about 3 hours on the phone with me. She was so nice and just telling me the ins and out of the way she put it together, the kind of limitations and things like that. So I think personally, I kind of typed up something and sent it to our county officials, just letting them know, this is something I think maybe we can do if we had the opportunity, if we had the funds, just to help our small businesses. There are gaps where they can't cover certain things. Like I said, it's hard for like a restaurant. If a restaurant, doesn't have, if it's not open, if it's just doing takeout, they have a very limited staff. So you can't pull a lot of the PPP funds. You can't pull a lot of the payroll funds for that. And those folks really don't make, you're paying them $2 an hour because a lot of that money comes from their salary comes from tips. So being able to fill the gaps of, let's say a restaurant that can't pull a full funds to cover all their expenses, being able to pull some funds so that they can, cover their mortgage. Just keep their doors open. I do know of 2 businesses that are going out of business. But one of them was probably going to be going out of business before this started anyway, but another one just announced. Now, I don't know if it's in direct response to the COVID, but it probably has something to do with it. So being able to provide an option, if possible, for our businesses to just give them some aid, because it would be ashamed if we came out of this. I told someone we did about 12 ribbon cuttings in the past about 10 months, and it would be ashamed if we came out of this, losing 10 small businesses, and our community really can't afford that. And I think that there's a need, if possible. The town has done everything they can. They're kind of limited because they don't draw property taxes. But if there's something the county can do, it would be.
That's where the ad hoc committee is going to come into play at, and I guess the discussion, because you don't want to assist a company that is going out of business. You're just taking just to take, So that's where the ad hoc committee is going to come into play at, so.
It is.
And what you don't want to do too is pick winners and losers.
Well, there's an opportunity. If it just going off of different guidelines that I've gathered from, let's say like Kershaw. Kershaw just announced the program a couple weeks ago, kind of pulling some ideas from them, pulling some ideas from City of Columbia. There are ways that you can make it democratic so that you're helping all the businesses and this is to help them fill in the gaps. This is not to pay every single bill. This is just to help them fill in the gaps and encourage people to go after those federal funds first.
Thank you,
to try to get those.
I appreciate it. Any questions? Oh, Ms.
One other thing to say.
Johnson.
Chris Hill, the county coroner, couldn't be here today, but he wanted council to know that on all calls they're wearing full PPEs because the deputies are part-time and can't risk time from their full-time job, and they're also sanitizing every day.
Thank you.
Well, good.
I think that's all.
I think that's it, Mr. Taylor.
Thank goodness.
All right, there is no clerk to council's report. Now down to county council time. Would any member like to be recognized? Well, I don't think nobody got to. Go ahead, Ms. Vice Chair.
Again, want to say thank you to all of our first responders. I want to say thank you to our administrative staff and the people that work with the county to help us keep going. I want to say to each and every one of you, thank you. To all the graduates, I say thank you. But to the parents, the grandparents, the aunties, and all of those that helped them make it. Good job. Thank you.
I think I'll just end on that good note right there. How about that?
I make a motion we cancel this meeting.
I think we are getting there. No, there is no executive session, so at this time I entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Moved and proper second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All right, at this time, we are adjourned. Mr. Douglas, we do have one.
I know. You got another page.
Okay, you guys want to take a quick 5-minute break, or y'all want to move on?
Let's move on.
Okay. Just give them a few. Ms. Douglas, you want to move on also?
Sure.
Okay, sounds good. We're gonna go ahead and move on, Lord. Mr. Taylor, he talking to us. Okay.
You okay?
Oh yeah. Thank you. This is 4 weeks of talking, so I don't know what I got, but I sure hope nobody else gets it.
I know that's right. I hope you get rid of it and don't give it to anybody else.
I second that motion.
Yeah, me too. I put a third on that one.
Yeah, you've been coughing like that for a while.
Yeah.
So.
Oh, Lord.
We'll just wait on Mr. Taylor if we can, yeah. Thought I was gonna have to send Gene a tug by text. Gene likes to talk.
Good information, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, wait on Lord. Thanks, so.
The name ring a bell, but yeah. Okay.
I should just told you to get us something to eat. Yeah, baby. Oh, you want to live, but you calling me? Yeah.
There it is. Oh, I already left my thing. I know.
Yeah, I'll do that. Miss Patty said you took good pictures.
You want to go?
I told her it was a photographer.
Okay.
All right, I'll call you soon. Another 20, 30 minutes.
Okay.
Okay. All right. Bye. That was Kayla.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
We voted against something one time. Why does it come back up on here?
Well, there was no clear clarification.
On what that? On what piece?
On the coroner's thing. We already voted against it one time.
They just need clear clarification.
Maybe,
That's all.
No, it's not good enough. They don't understand that.
All right. Y'all ready?
Yes.
All right. We ready? Okay. All right. Good afternoon again, everyone. I'd like to welcome everyone to our budget work session, mini budget work session, we'll call it. Today's date is Tuesday, May 26, 2020. Time is what, 7:45? First, we'll have the approval of the agenda. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved and properly seconded. Any discussion?
It's 7:39.
Thank you, Mr. Douglas. 7:39. Okay. No discussion. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Now down to our invocation. Vice Chair Goins.
Lord God, we thank you for today. We thank you for your faithfulness and for your love, your mercy, and your grace. And we thank you for allowing us to serve others. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. Thank you, Vice Chair Goins. The reason why we're going through this mini budget work session is because administration just needed a few clarifications from council. So, and a few adjustments. I'll go ahead and turn it over to Mr. Taylor. So.
Yes, that is correct, Mr. Chairman. We do need a few clarifications. We typically try to, we typically have more budget work sessions than we had this year. We were trying to put it all into one, but unfortunately, we do have to have this mini budget workshop just for clarifications, and I think there was a request for further discussion on certain items. It's just a handful of items. Hopefully, we can get through these reasonably quick. I will let Ms. Bass go through these items quickly and kind of give why we're bringing them back up, reason, justification.
Okay. The first thing, I think it was brought to our attention that maybe council was interested in discussing the sheriff's department cars again. We have 3 that are currently budgeted. The cost per car is $33,711. That's just the average cost, of course, and then it's about $13,000 to equip it. So currently, we have budgeted $140,133, and I think that had been brought to us to bring back up.
Can I ask a question?
Go ahead.
These are in no particular order, correct?
No.
As far as, like the bottom one, the outside agency support. If that is something that might go through 10%, 15%, 20%, and then we kind of know that amount of money that we could use toward other things. You understand what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
So is it a way that we could maybe do that one first?
Sure. These are just items for discussion. They're not really in the form like we.
If you'd like us to discuss that one first, we'd be glad to, and then that again would give you guidance. If we were going to cut in one area, that might free up money to provide in another.
Right.
Is that something council want to discuss first? Is that okay?
Do you need a motion, or what do you need?
No, sir. We just openly discussing.
Okay.
Okay.
So the outside agency support, I think it was requested of what the savings would be if we reduce that by 10, 15, or 20%. These numbers are the total. There are several that would exclude that are really fees. They're included in this, but like the Central Midlands COG, the Central South Carolina allowance, the Department of Health and Human Services, Indigent Care, Midlands Technical College, Association of Counties, and the I-77 Alliance. Those are all treated a little more like fees, so they would not be part of that reduction. And then, of course, the library is funded by its own millage. If you look on the second page that has some orange-colored lines highlighted, this shows you each agency what the 2021, that kind of middle column is the 2021 county administrative recommendation. That's what's currently in the budget. And then that shows you what, if we cut it 10%, if we cut it 15, or if we cut it 20, what each of these agencies would get. The ones that are highlighted are the ones that would be excluded from that reduction.
And the bottom line is how much the county would save based on those cuts.
That's right. That very bottom line, if we, yep.
I'll make a motion that we reduce it by 15%.
No motion is needed, just a.
Okay.
Budget workshop.
Yeah, we
Okay.
just,
Yep.
we
Okay.
can't make motion during the workshop, so we just openly discuss it, and so we can give a clearer directions for staff to take. For, I think we're on the third reading now.
The next reading.
Next one will be the third reading, so. So,
I think we ought to think about 20%.
Doug, what you said? You said 10%?
I said 15%.
20%. I said I think we ought to think about 20%.
Mr. Douglas is at 20%.
Let me, as I look at the ones that's not getting cut, is the ones in orange, correct?
Yes, sir.
Oh, man, I tell you what, this is a disaster. I mean, come on, y'all. Look at the ones that's getting cut and tell me what y'all think. Man, what have we become? Mr. Chair, I tell you what, I don't even know how you let this exist.
What are you insinuating, Mister?
No, I'm not insinuating. Why would we come back here for this?
What do you? I mean, say what's on your mind.
I'm saying, for instance, right now, if you listen to the news just yesterday and today, there are more people with drug problems, more people depressed, more people with alcoholism and everything. And we talking about cutting an already tight budget, and we talking about cutting it 20%. Instead of giving it the $69,000, which I thought they shouldn't get, now we're talking about giving them $55,000. Come on, man.
What are you referring to?
I'm saying look at the ones that's cut.
I guess you're talking about the numbers, the 69.
Yeah, what is
Trying to get an idea.
And I can't understand how would you be satisfied with yourselves doing this kind of budget cuts?
You need to explain what you're talking about. Nobody understands what you're saying.
I'm saying look at the ones that's cut. And I mentioned one, American Red Cross.
That's not cut, unless I'm missing it.
No, that one would be cut.
It would be cut.
Okay.
Everything in orange is
20%.
not
Okay, everything in orange is not cut, okay.
Can't cut those.
Okay, look at Fairfield Behavior Health.
You say you can't cut the orange?
The ones in orange, they're
I'm looking at the Chaplain Inspiration Learning Center.
That's the question, man. I'd like to get an answer.
well, the ones in orange we can't cut because they're based on a formula, either population. We're essentially contractually required to fund that amount, or some such as the library, they have their own millage rate. So that's we can't touch that either unless we chose to lower the millage, I suppose.
Well, let me ask you this about Midlands Tech. How's that? I mean, is that a formula used for that?
Yeah.
Being population based, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, so.
They charge Fairfield County students a county rate rather than an out-of-county rate.
But that's the 150,000 we give, correct?
Yes.
But when we did the Promise program, we agreed to pay for all of the kids' tuition anyway, correct?
Yes.
So I don't see why that 150 couldn't be reduced if we agreed to do the Promise program and pay for free tuition anyway.
The 150
Yes, it's a valid
is
point.
what they need to run Midlands Tech here in Winsboro, Fairfield County.
In their budget request, I had called to ask, because in one section, they said for the operations of the campuses, and then in another section, they had the calculation, estimated number of students times the in-county rate. So that's what I was given.
Let me mention something else too. Again, I mentioned last week that 57% of our budget is salary and fringe. I know some suggest that, well, okay, it's not as bad as it looks.
Is that an accurate number? I didn't look for myself.
Okay, but let me tell you what is accurate. One of the things is we in the number 5 group for population, but we in the number 3 group for budget. So if you look at our population, okay, and you look at for the budget that people have in that number 5 group, And you go ahead and put those numbers together, we'll probably be about 75% salary and fringe.
Is that number correct? 57%?
It is. I think where there might have been some confusion on the Association of Counties website, they give a lot of statistics, and I believe the number they had is only salaries. The number that I prepared in that graph included salaries, insurance, retirement, it included.
Fringe, yeah.
But I will
Salary
say,
and fringe,
we
right.
did look at the comparison between the other counties. We're not out of line. In
We're
fact,
in line.
we're a little on the low side as far as salaries compared to other counties.
On the low side. I'll tell you what, I want to see those numbers. Because when I look at Group 5 versus Group 3,
Per capita, correct?
yeah, right, and for the Association of Counties.
The Association of Counties, again, they do not include fringe. I think it's just straight salary.
Straight salary, I
What,
thought.
39%?
That's what I thought.
That's what it is on their site, but I believe it's only salaries. But if you also notice, at the bottom of their chart, there's a little asterisk and says that counties did not participate in that survey.
Right.
So we did not provide that information, nor did the other counties. So I really don't know what kind of comparison we're looking at.
Okay.
Okay, but is the 57% accurate?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
What's the rest of council thinking on the outside agency support? I know Mr. Bell said you against it totally, correct?
Yes, I'm against it totally. And I'm sure all of you all are too.
Would this be something that is like transition into? Or would it be,
Come July 1, their budgets would be reduced.
Well, we do have more important things we need to fund, so I think 20% would be fair.
Could you say that again, Mr. Douglas? I'm sorry.
I said we have other things that need to be funded, and 20% would be fair.
And that's essentially where this came from. We had a request that if we're going to fund additional things, then we need to reduce somewhere to cover the cost of those additional funded items.
Right.
Mr. Chair.
Yeah.
This budget really is if you kind of look at it, it's almost documents in disguise. And let me tell you why I said that. Because the budget come to us and they got all this money in it. Okay, we got $46 million in the budget. Then they come back and tell us we need to cut the budget. After they done put everything in it, they won't. And then they come back and say, well, you all decide. So let's cut all these services that's for people. And then they expect us to go along with that. I'll tell you what, I don't see how we would sleep at night going along with this part of the budget.
Well,
take a sleeping pill.
I couldn't hear. They cut it 20%.
No.
Yep.
Well, my thing is, if we do have to, cut the budget, I would go with the minimum of 10% myself. I mean, I do agree that these are they're real needed in the county, and I hate to see them get cut. But if we have to do something with the budget, then I wouldn't go more than 10%.
Mr. Gill,
And Mr. Gill, we don't have to do we got $20-something million in fund balance.
The budget will be for the next 12 months. And we can be obviously revisit it in 12 months with the new budget.
Yeah, Mr. Gill, I'm kind of leaning toward if it's need to be 10% also. But that was a good question that Dougie brought up about Midlands Tech, though.
If we were to add Midlands Tech in that, 10% would be $15,881. 15 would be 23,821, and 20% would be 31,762 for Midlands Tech.
Repeat that again.
If we were to add the Midlands Technical College into that, the 10% would add 15,881, 15% would add 23,821, and 20% would add 31,762 to that total reduction.
And I think they need to be added for the simple fact of, we made a commitment to pay for students in Fairfield County for free tuition. And if we're gonna do that out of the Promise Program, I just don't see what the other 150,000 is being used for if we're setting aside money to pay for tuition anyway.
Yeah, I can ask Mr. Douglas to.
Mr. Douglas, you got a lot of
Yeah.
feedback coming from your phone.
Yeah, one of the things is,
About now.
we got,
You good?
we did regular salaries, the $50,000 salaries, and if I knew we was gonna come back with this, there's no way I would have made the motion to do salaries beginning January 1. Because, there's no way. I mean, you come at the end adding this. Where you're taking away money from agencies that do good for people.
It's definitely not an easy task, I'll say that. But if cuts need to be made, I'll go for the 10%.
But Mr. Robinson, it don't need to be made. This is our decision. It don't need to be made. We got $20-some million in fund balance.
That's for
Ms. Johnson.
spending for next year's fiscal year.
Ms. Johnson, Ms. Hollis, in the past 5 years, could you tell me if this is the largest amount of money that we had to move from the fund balance to cover the budget?
Yes.
I think it's total what?
It was
$1 million.
$5 million?
$5 million.
And so why was that?
We typically move 3.
So why was that?
And we're moving 5 because we're having a budget shortfall this year, correct?
We had some
Got some
loss,
revenue.
anticipated loss from the nuclear plants.
From the nuclear
Okay.
plant.
Okay, we losing 1.2 million from the shortfall. Okay, we adding 1.3 million. That's 2.5 million, right? So tell me how we got the other.
I want
Adding
a
what?
question.
Okay, it's gonna be a $1.2 million shortfall, correct? A 1.3.
Speculative?
For the budget that we're preparing,
Yeah.
it's about 5 million that we're budgeting.
Okay, yeah, but the question is that for revenue side, we losing what, 1.3 million? Or 1.2?
Well, it's in various places. We did lose about 1.3 out of that, business personal,
Okay,
but there are various other places as well.
so 1.3, and then we added, looked like about $1.3 million to the budget, more than we had last year.
In expenses?
Yes,
Okay,
okay, so that's
Yeah, we're gonna have a
2.5,
shortfall
2.6.
this year.
yeah.
Okay, so then, okay, why are we taking $5 million out unless they didn't go to salary and fringes?
Well, in last year's budget, we also had, I don't remember the exact number, but quite a bit budgeted that we would potentially have to use from fund balance.
That was like 3.
It's typical.
It was
That was like 2 or 3.
maybe between 3 and 4. I don't remember the exact number.
Each year we budget from fund balance, but luckily over the past couple of years, we didn't have to dip into fund balance. We ended up with a surplus. Because you have to understand, even with the revenues, those are estimates on what we anticipate coming in, and over the last couple of years, in certain areas, it's basically in the tax areas, we've had some windfalls in there, you know. I remember one year, we had a windfall of about $1.5 million on a tax line that we didn't even expect. So those additional revenues coming in kind of offsets us having to use fund balance. So like for the past 5 to 7 years, really, we've had a surplus going in. I mean, so we can't really predict that.
Okay, so if we look at on one thing about data and history, you look at it, right? You look at previous years. So we look at the last 5 to 7 years, we've not had to use it. So we can expect the same thing this year.
No, I don't ever expect
No,
it.
we have a shortfall this
I
year.
can only, because
But
one year,
if we look at history,
just like last year, it was about $550,000 surplus. The year before, it may have been $1 million. So, you know, this last year was one of our years that is actually going down our excess of revenues over expenditures. This year, we're going into the year anticipating, knowing that those revenues are going to be decreased.
okay, thank you.
So,
Okay, so then, we thought last year we were gonna have to dip in there about $3 million, but we didn't. We got $500,000 surplus.
yes.
Well,
Okay,
because we hadn't finished the year yet. We don't know.
I'm
That
sorry.
was the
okay,
Audited-
but you only got 1 month.
The audited year.
Okay, so probably 500,000. Last year, you estimated 2 or 3 million in fund balance, but you end up with $1 million in surplus. You know, last year.
2019.
So then, why would you expect different this year?
19.
Well, if the trend over the last probably 5 years, that surplus has gone down and down.
Okay,
and down.
so let's suppose this year we get 0. Okay, but we still hadn't touched fund balance. So
That
we
could
still
happen,
good.
but we also can do $1 million and ended up touching fund
Okay,
balance.
so you
So
still, instead of dipping in 3 million, you only got 1 million. You only got 2.
But
Yep.
we have used the fund balance probably one time in the last 5 years or 10 years, I think it.
Closer to like 7 to 10
Yeah,
years.
yeah.
So you
That
don't
we had
use
to use a good bit of our fund balance.
But you got to anticipate using it maybe, correct?
Yeah, we always do.
I mean, looking at the trend lines, because it continues to decline, my guess is if the pattern holds, we would probably have to pull at best case scenario, $1 million this year.
Right. If it keeps declining the way it is, we'll have to continue to dip into the fund balance.
5 that we
Right.
put in there, but I'm anticipating
Hope not.
in reality, it's going to be $1 million at least. Just look at the trend lines.
And me to argue alone, so. I don't need me to keep arguing alone, right? I just go and give you my thoughts.
I think Ms. Bishop. Still need a clear direction to give administration to go on. We kind of,
Well, I'm still for 20%, but we need to do some reducing. But if everybody else wants 10, I'll go along with it.
But for me, if we have to do this, and it is necessary, 10%.
Everybody's saying, if we gotta do it, we ain't gotta do it. We the council. We decide.
I understand what you're saying, Mr. Bell, but I also understand our situation, and especially at this point in time where we are now, how things are. We don't know what's going to happen, what's going to come up. There's no way.
You know, we might have
nothing
trouble
else-
collecting
history,
rent. I
nothing else can
mean,
ensure that.
taxes.
say it again, Mr. Douglas.
We might have trouble collecting taxes this year if this virus keeps on putting people out of work.
We don't know what may happen.
That's true.
We don't know what we're going to get this year. But we're not going to get anything on the one-cent sales tax because nobody's spending any money.
We can move on.
So the next item, you want to go to cars now, Sheriff's Department?
What we decide, Neil?
10.
10, okay.
And we'll include Midlands Tech in that, correct?
I think is that the consensus?
Yeah.
10% including Midlands.
If
Are we saying include Midland Tech too?
I'm asking.
they are part of the.
Okay, so okay, what about these other groups? That's not included.
They just said you couldn't because of.
Okay, why are we gonna? You see what I'm saying, y'all? You pick out those groups that you don't like up here with no rhyme or reason.
He just explained to you.
They just explained, Mr. Bell.
And I stated my reason.
Have mercy. Could you explain one more time why the people in red or orange can't be cut?
Those that are highlighted are treated, their fees. And they're listed here. For example, the Department of Health and Human Services indigent care, that's based on a formula that they calculate the amount of indigent care in our county, and they send us to help with our piece of that.
Every last one of them. People's problems.
Some of the others, the Central Midlands COG, the Central South Carolina Alliance, I-77 Alliance, Association of Counties. I guess they're essentially membership fees to be a part of these organizations.
Renegotiate contract.
You have to renegotiate the contract.
Or we have to change ordinances.
That's true. Now, the deal with Midlands Tech is we give them two sources of funds, correct? Yeah. We give them
Promise
program
allocation.
And this allocation, which is totaling 270, 280, something like that.
Yeah, with the 75, and of course they request that as it's used. It's not, we just don't write them a check for 75,000.
That's
as
true.
a student enrolls,
Yeah.
we pay for that. But budgeted would be the 158 plus the 75, so that would be close to 230.
In the facility there, the 158 doesn't cover the operation of the facility here that's located in Fairfield?
Well, I'm sorry, I called and asked because both things were on their budget request. And I just needed clarification as to which one, and the information what I was given was the in-county rate, charging students in-county rate versus out-of-county rate. So I went with that.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think.
So I got a call.
Thank y'all.
Okay. All right. So from there, do y'all just want to go back in order, or is there? Okay.
It don't even matter to me right now.
Yeah, let's go back to the top.
Then back the sheriff's department cars. Again, we have 3 that are currently budgeted. That total is $140,133, and I think that had been brought back up. Requested for us to bring that back, those total numbers per car, if we wanted to stick with 3, or I think that was just information council wanted to know what the total cost per car was and the total cost to equip it.
We need to add 3 cars to the sheriff's department.
Mr. Douglas say we need to add 3.
3, yeah. Now, on the sheriff's department cars, some of the equipment out of the old cars, what's done with it?
Sheriff Stacy, you want to come up to the mic, Sheriff, or one of them?
We'll have to replace most of them. Some of these cars are unmarked cars that we have that's absolutely got to be, the equipment's got to be replaced and everything.
The radios too?
Yeah.
Because we replaced all the radios in the sheriff's department cars with that new radio system.
That would be the only thing that we wouldn't have to replace the radios, but the blue lights and all that stuff have to be replaced.
Right. I got you on that. That's fine.
Are these going to be patrol cars?
Truck cars?
These patrol cars.
Patrol cars.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. They're replacing the ones that's got 300,000.
Sheriff, can I ask you a question?
Yeah.
How many would you, and I guess it depends on what the council votes in favor, but how many do you anticipate maybe selling to get compensation for, like at state surplus or?
All of them that we have, we'll do what we call deadline them. The county have opportunity to get them if they want them, or we'll send them to sales.
Do you have like you might not know, like an average usually what they bring in, like money-wise?
They don't bring anything hardly.
They bring, it's negligible.
Not too much.
Now, last council meeting, I made, during the motion list, I made a motion that we give the sheriff 3 cars. Okay, now, all of a sudden, we had 3 cars.
Mr. Bell, the idea is, I told you I spoke with the sheriff.
Okay.
Now we here. Let's not focus in the past. Let's try to move forward.
All right. All right, Mr. Chair.
Anybody else want to discuss? I think Mr. Douglas said getting 3 more vehicles. Mr. Pauley, you got anything?
I guess we can't make no motion or nothing. So we just
So there's currently 3 budgeted, and Mr. Douglas is saying 3 more.
Right.
I can go with
3 more, you gotta put 3 people as 3 deputies in an office somewhere and let them sit there every day. They need to be on the road.
I agree with you, Mr. Douglas.
Absolutely. I guess that's what, absolutely.
I think we have a consensus.
I can go 3 with Mr. Douglas.
Okay.
Okay, that's good. He's
All right.
3 cars.
Yep, the next thing is a truck for solid waste. This was one of the trucks we had in the budget for 2 trucks for community development. We were going to use one of the trucks that came out of community development for solid waste. Because the 2 vehicles for community development were not approved, we need to put the truck for solid waste back in the budget. The original quote that was presented was $35,718.
This is Public Works.
This is for solid waste.
Solid
This
waste.
is different than the road maintenance supervisor.
That truck that he's got now is over 200,000 miles, 300,000 miles, isn't it?
100,000, yeah. So.
You talking about in solid waste?
Yeah.
Yes. Is there any? Okay.
Any questions anybody want to discuss about it? Or everybody okay with that vehicle going to that?
Well, no, we're not talking about replacing the 2 vehicles that are code enforcement.
No.
No, sir. No, sir, not at all.
Okay, good. All right.
If the solid waste vehicle has over 300,000 miles on it, is there a reason that we couldn't replace that vehicle?
That's what we're.
That's what we're talking
this
about.
is.
Okay.
Yes.
That's the only vehicle we discussed.
Okay.
Yeah, it needs to be, yeah.
So I think we got a consensus to
Okay.
go forward with that.
All right.
so.
The next thing is shifting the economic development director from a county-provided vehicle to a car allowance. Currently, that director is assigned a county vehicle. This would shift that. We would include approximately $750 per month.
I will interrupt. The
Okay.
economic development director has asked for 1,000 because once the taxes come out, he's really
Okay.
upside down, and that's what Kershaw offers. So
Okay.
that'd be the only change here.
All right.
Repeat that, please.
And we've got 750 here, but Ty, the economic development director, has asked for 1,000. This is what Kershaw offers, and then taxes and all that comes out of it. So I don't think he would get what $450, $500.
Yeah.
What are you talking about? Who's getting the vehicle?
This would be economic development director. It would be going to a car allowance as opposed to him having a county vehicle, which would mean he would lose his gas card and have to turn the county vehicle in. It's a practice that some counties use.
And the vehicle he has would go back to our pool.
It would come back to us.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, but now here's the thing about economic development. He had a 4-wheel drive vehicle, and then when Mr. Taylor's car was torn up and they fixed it, he got it. Now you got 2 vehicles going to be sitting out there, right?
No, because
No, sir.
and we would probably do a swap, and that one would come back to me, and then the one I've got would go back to the pool.
Gotcha. Okay.
So why we need pool cars?
For people to use that works for the county that don't drive them every day.
We typically have how many pool cars?
I think we got
Yeah,
4.
we don't have many. Some of them are not in that good condition, but anybody that's going, any county employee that's going on a overnight trip or a day trip instead of using their own car, they can use a pool car.
Okay, so how much money a year will we gain if we go to a car allowance?
Well, I don't know. out of.
How much we gonna save?
Well, considering we would purchase a vehicle up front for approximately $35,000.
Okay, but right now we don't need to purchase a vehicle.
We do not, so, I mean, $1,000 a month is gonna be $12,000 a year. $36,000 automobile, that's about 3 years. I mean, that's kinda,
Gas too, because
Yeah.
it's what, $350, $400.
Yeah, that's enough. Development wouldn't
save on all
wouldn't
that.
put enough miles on it to get rid of it.
So are you all saying that we will gain money by this effort?
You will save some.
What?
If we can calculate, can you guess?
that we would save money. I feel like it probably would be a pretty close to break even. I don't know necessarily how much we would save. I think it's just a different way of
Who's gonna be
providing
paying taxes
automobiles.
on his car and stuff?
$350, $400 a month in gas, right? So the gas that we spend right now,
How much we spending gas?
$350, $400 a month.
3,000.
Doing what?
That's a year.
Driving.
Well, that's 3,000
A year.
That includes the maintenance. the
It's
change
not
the oil, the
regular
tires.
savings.
Just add it all. So,
So the 750 per month, that's gonna include maintenance and everything on it?
Now, yeah, we don't have to
He would be
maintain his
responsible
car.
for
He's
everything.
responsible.
Yeah.
How about the
responsible for
taxes,
everything.
Laura?
Maintenance, that's his.
So we gonna give him $750 a month.
This is a taxable amount that actually goes on the payroll. It's a taxable allowance.
Does he have to pay taxes on his vehicle?
He does have to pay taxes on this vehicle.
Yeah.
Yes.
And again,
Good. I think
he's-
that's a good job. That is a good idea.
Again, right now, we have 750. He's requested 1,000, which is comparable to what Kershaw has. I think Kershaw has a vehicle allowance of 1,000 for their economic development director.
And still, he's carrying all the responsibilities.
Yeah, we have none. We're
fair
free
enough.
of all liability
We
responsibility.
ain't thinking at all.
What's council's,
Can I ask a question? If he's on county time and is acting as a county employee and has an accident in that vehicle, is that county insurance? That's his own insurance? How does that work?
You know, with a lawsuit, I think they probably could name us also. I don't know that that's a legal question for the attorney, but I do think, and Ann's looked into this a little bit with the county association.
Yeah, when I spoke with the Association of Counties about that, for certain positions, like economic development or administrators, they were okay with it. They didn't really recommend it for everybody else for those very type reasons, and then they felt like you would lose control of the type automobile. But they would, of course, have to follow a policy. It would be their insurance, and the employee, would be responsible for it, just like if I had a wreck in my own vehicle. But like Mr. Taylor said, in the case of a lawsuit or something, that the county probably could be named.
Yeah, I mean, I just, I kind of worry about Mr. Davenport and, somebody wanting to sue him, and he's actually working for the county.
this is something that that is the norm, correct?
I don't know if it's I'd say it's
I
not
wouldn't say
fixed.
norm, but
It's one option.
Common practice.
It's common practice with some counties. And again, it's always limited to the administrator or the economic development director, typically, in the counties we looked at. And we talked about the county association. But again, this is a request that's been made, and we just need to know kind of pleasure of council one way or the other.
Taj, you okay with this? Going to?
Yes.
Okay.
All right.
I mean, if you
Good for me.
it's good enough for me too. Got to get some type of consensus from everybody so we can move forward.
Well,
But when I was in sales, that's what I went through. It worked out pretty good.
Okay. Now, the recommendation from you was 750. And he's requesting 1,000, correct?
Well, we started at 750 and he's come
Okay.
back with 1,000 because, again, I think taxes, everything comes out of this.
Yes.
And at 750, it wouldn't be enough.
Yeah,
Basically back
it'd
down
be
to
a-
what he's getting
yeah,
in gas.
that'd be a
right
net
now.
less, yeah.
He would get 400, which is that's about where we're at gas.
Okay. So,
What if he didn't need 750? What if we approve 750? And for some reason,
That's what he's after now.
this thing worked out at $500 a month. Where's the extra 250 going?
I think once
Well, it's not 500 because you've got to pay taxes on it, wear and tear on the
I
car.
think Ty's going to be upside down even 1,000.
Right.
Frankly, he's going to
Yeah.
end up owing more because with taxes, insurance, gas, maintenance, all that kind of thing, and actually purchasing a car, which is he's going to have to purchase a car that is suitable for economic development. He can't go out and purchase, old 85 whatever.
Right, yeah.
He's got to purchase them. So I personally think he's going to end up upside down, and we've just had this discussion, and he's willing to accept that.
Let me ask a question there. Ty, are you saying you going in this knowing you're gonna be upside down?
He'll just drive shorter routes.
Huh?
Yes, but right now, like I can only drive the car, I can't take it on vacation, my business car. So I have to have a personal car and my driveway. I only have one. I can't let my wife or my daughter drive this car.
Right.
So there's some convenience in there as well. So I think I'll come out I'm willing to pay the extra for the convenience of having a car.
I understand.
And the other thing from the county standpoint, I'll have a nicer car, it'll have, we need a good image, so I want to make sure, there's some rules that Mr. Taylor's and I talked about.
Okay, so you're talking about $750 a month. I go along with $750 a month.
Well, $750 a month.
He doesn't break.
Well, he upside down to 750, I can tell you.
Way too far.
Yeah, I think that's good.
Okay, now that's what's on the sheet.
That is what got put on the sheet. But again, he's come back after running the numbers, and again, as we know, he's going to be upside down at 1,000, 750. He would almost, I don't know that you.
That would, it wouldn't be right.
Well, I'll tell you the honest truth. I think $1,000 would be perfectly fine.
I would have to agree.
But what he's compromising and
And
sacrificing.
still, we saving money by doing that.
Yes.
I think once you take everything to again,
And it'd be helping him out
Miss
so his
Bass.
family can drive the car.
One of the things I would like to see at the end of the we ain't gonna save no money.
You don't think so?
Oh yeah, I know so. You ain't gonna save a dime.
Well, if we break it.
How in the world do you know? You God?
Have responsibility.
All right.
He's taking on a lot of responsibility,
Okay.
and that has to be considered.
Ty, you sure you want to do that?
Yeah.
I might rethink it. What, 1250? No. It's fine.
Anybody else? Like I said, I'm okay with it.
Good with 1,000.
Jim Ray?
How about it, Dougie? I'm good with it.
Paul? Mr. Gilbert?
I can't say that I'm good with it.
I'm okay with it. Like I said, I've been in this program before and it worked out.
Worked out for you? Okay.
And I'm not good with it.
Okay.
All right, let's move on.
The next item was the deputy coroner's pay. And I believe in the work session, this was discussed in the work session. I think that it may have been requested to go on the motions list and it did not. So I just kind of wanted to bring it up and make sure before we move further, we had a good idea of that. Currently, the deputy coroners are paid $300 a month. The coroner had requested this to be increased to about $550. He wanted them to net about $500. And as we, discussed items in the budget, the administrator's recommendation was $400 per month to kind of meet that halfway. So the $400 per month is what is currently in there. but I feel like there was a little discussion, and it may have just kind of got lost in the discussion, and I just wanted to be sure this came back up and we had a clear idea of what to put.
I think we need to leave it at 300. I mean, we're making cuts to all these other departments. I mean, I think 300 is.
This is, how many hours does the assistant work?
This is amazing.
On call for a whole week.
Yeah, they're
I
on
think
call.
they're on call for a while.
Evening.
Now, this is
7
not
days
an
at a time.
department. This is a actual person doing a particular job.
Yes, they take call to respond with the actual coroner, or I think even in place of him, if they're called or if more than one person's called at a time.
Is there a cost analysis? I guess what Kershaw's doing, Richland. You have that?
Aren't we the lowest? Aren't our deputies one of the lowest in the county?
We looked at surrounding counties, and I won't say we're the lowest, but we are on the lower side. There's I think Lancaster pays a good bit more, which they're a good bit bigger. But comparatively speaking, I think we're not bottom, but we are lower average. They do, and I'll say they do. I think they do 7 days on call, and they're responsible for covering the evenings. I think it starts at 5 or 6 p.m.
I'll be okay with
next morning.
with the administrator's recommendation.
This is amazing.
What is the recommendation of the administrator?
It's 400.
400.
But he came back and asked for 550. Ty came back and asked for 1,000, so we give him 1,000. This guy asked for 550.
Yes.
Okay.
Let's see.
What are you recommending, Mr. Bell? Give him 550.
That's what he asked for. We giving people what they asked for, right?
I say let's split the difference and make it 450.
You say 450, Mr. Douglas?
Yeah, I think she'd be worth that. She's a good worker.
Who is he talking about?
Well, now, this is
Collins, is she still there?
no. This is for the deputy coroners. I believe there are 4 of them, and they rotate call 1 week per month. They're not necessarily here all day. This is all they get per month.
Okay, well, I agree with the administrator then. It's just not,
This is just
The administrator said what? 300?
The administrator recommended 400. They're currently paid.
400? Well, I'll go along with the administrator.
And Mr. Carver, you said the taxes come out of that?
Yeah, that's it. The 300 is a gross
Eligible for
amount.
retirement if they choose to.
That's
but
gross,
they're
so
treated
retirement
as
and
temporary. They're not full-time. They don't have to participate in retirement, but they can if they choose to.
yeah, but you got taxes too.
Yeah.
So
And
they bring it home.
225, 230.
probably.
I guess I would have to agree with the 550 myself if the taxes come out.
If
Is that Mr. Gilbert?
550
Yes,
would
sir.
They would bring home about how
Okay.
much? Right at
I believe that would get them close to 500. I think that was Coroner Hill's reasoning behind choosing 550 because they would net approximately 500.
Yeah. They have quite a responsibility, on call.
Well, if you figure it out, they're not making. Even if it's working full time, we wouldn't be getting $24,000 a year. So that would be good.
Effect on the budget anyway. I mean, this is very small. Very
Yes,
small.
and they're 4 of them. Would be a small difference.
I'm okay with it. If they only netting that much, yeah, I'm okay with 550.
Okay, we're at 550 then.
Yeah.
We need them.
Yes. Sure.
And I think
I think that's it.
those are all the items. Yes, sir.
Yeah. Well, how about the truck for public works?
We are no.
Got that.
We already took care of all the vehicles, Mr. Doe. That's it for us.
Okay, good deal. All right.
I entertain a motion to, well, at this time, we adjourn. I don't need a motion.
I so move.